The American States Assembly. Who's it made up of? What's its purpose? And how has it changed the lives of the people involved in it? Let's dive in. What's up there guys, thanks for tuning in, I'm Rick. This is Fanfare for the Conscious, and in this video I'm very excited to present to you my conversation with the American States Assembly. This was a video conference that I put together at the beginning of January. I put up a Facebook post on one of the American States Assembly groups and was able to get together very quickly at least 7 or 8 people who were interested in coming on a conference call with me and answering some of my questions and putting together the material that you're going to be seeing. It's been a long road putting this together. It's taken me 40-50 plus hours to cut it down, and I've been quite brutal with the cutting, unfortunately, so my apologies to any of those on the conference call who didn't make it into the final edit. I do appreciate everybody who joined. There was actually 12 of them, I believe, in the end, plus myself and my good friend Neil Warren. Lots of amazing things to talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to myself in early January. Thank you very much for joining me today for an extra special episode of Fanfare for the Conscious. Today I am joined by numerous members of the American States Assembly. So much to talk about, very excited. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to start with a question I'm going to pass over to everybody because I want to put a real human face on everything that's going on this evening. I think it's important for us to realise that these are real people, and I'm so honoured to be able to actually put real names and faces in front of you this evening so you can see the actual people who are getting involved with exactly what I would like to see happening over here in Great Britain. So Gary Mead, can you just tell me, when did you discover there was something fundamentally wrong with the way your nation was being run? When was that moment of realization that something really needed to change?
Unfortunately, I've kind of known ever since I was a kid. There's, I was born in 1970 in New Haven, and just as soon as I was aware of really how things went with school, with just kind of everything that was going on out in the world, I've just been aware of things since as far back as I can remember. I mean, I've developed a greater clarity of that stuff over time, but it's I've always really kind of known.
I don't remember exactly how I discovered that there was something wrong with my country, because for me, I think I felt that way from a very young age. I think I'm an anarchist at heart, to be perfectly honest. So I don't like the idea of government as a whole. And so I started encountering problems at a young age, but it really set in for me when I was in the military.
I've always known there was something wrong with society. I didn't make it through high school, so I dropped out 10th grade. I went into a couple courses in college, but I dropped out. I just couldn't make it inside organized society the way it was. It was like 1 degree of certainty, and I'm looking for 360 degrees of holistic understanding, and it just wasn't there. It didn't click with me.
We haven't admitted that I'm 64. So different generational perspective, perhaps, as well as the difference between America, where the land of the free is emphasized, and Britain, which, yes, all of our ancestors fought for our freedoms. We won the wars and so on, and therefore we're the mother of democracy, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, I went all the way through from 1957 birth through to 1996. What was I? Nearly 40 there. Not really thinking there was anything out of alignment at all. You worked hard, you learnt, you played hard, and so on. 1996, I read Graham Hancock's book for the first time, and I thought, oh, so we haven't accurately described history then. Yeah, okay, well, that's interesting. I ran it by a couple of friends. They said it was just made up cherry-picking stuff, so I left it alone. The 9/11 event, even though I was working in the media, I just took it on the chin. I just thought, yeah, okay, it was a bit odd, but I can't not trust the BBC and all the newspapers and everybody. The next 10 years, I just let that slide and followed their narrative. I have an American wife, as I said. We actually cheered the election of Obama. We thought that was a good thing for unifying America, making everything great. And the credit crunch, the Lehman Brothers thing, I thought, well, yes, okay, a bad recession, but whatever. So I didn't really start waking up until about 2010, when I saw the documentary Inside Job. It's nothing to do with 9/11 specifically. It's about banking corruption and money corruption. And when that actually came to me personally, so that my own employees, Bedfordshire Police, came and stole my land, my home, the place where I worked, the place where my wife worked as an artist, where the dog lived, and they just threw us out on the street and said, there you go. That's when I woke up, big time. So 2013 and through to 2014 is when I started realizing, this is nothing like what we've been told it is.
I always had kind of like a spiritual rebel in me. I was always kind of the most talkative person in class. You know, I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to be around everybody. My teacher would always kick me out of the room. So basically, I always had kind of a sovereignty in me, but I never knew anything about sovereignty. And it's crazy because we grew up in a nice union family. My mom was a real estate agent in New York. You know, they had nice jobs. And we went to family gatherings with the church. I like marched for Bernie Sanders. Like I was such in that life. I was organizing people. I thought I was spreading truth and knowledge and equality and love and light. And then when I found out the truth, you know, I just felt so bad. And I started to see like the coronavirus. Basically, we got our jobs shut down in March, and 12 million people in one day, we got laid off. So it took me like 5 hours to get home. I knew nothing about trusts or capital name or straw man 5 months ago. And now I've been given so many avenues for truth and so much history and so much perspective and so much logic and principle and the original. And it's so beautiful and it's so enlightening and it makes you so aware.
It was very, very early on, you know, in my childhood when I was, you know, just looking at the world and how reality wasn't, you know, what we were being taught in school. You know, they're saying that we have all these freedoms, but we, you know, in reality, we have all these rules that we have to follow also. You know, you got to stand in line at school and you can only go to the bathroom when you ask. And I mean, there really wasn't any freedoms that they kept telling us that we had. So I was very rebellious in my younger age. You know, I didn't like to follow rules. I didn't like people telling me what to do. And as I got older, you know, I learned more and more, and it eventually led me down this path to finding the answers of how to truly be free. You know, like we've always been told that we are.
And I think that's a sentiment that a lot of us can echo, is that sort of gut feeling. I think that a lot of the first people in here are the people who had the spiritual armor to realize and not be fully ever programmed by the system, that something just never quite took. So the next point I want to come on to is, from my perspective, I've seen people talking about sovereignty and reclaiming your own status as a living being for the last 7 years. And we've had it manifest in numerous different forms. We've had people just trying to set up common law courts, which to me doesn't make any sense without a government or some sort of organizational system that's going to enforce the outcomes of those courts. And then there's been people who are trying to cite Magna Carta Article 61, and there's been loads of different methods of doing it. When did you guys discover the work of Anna von Reitz, and what made it stand out to you, and why do you think that is better than what so many other people have done before?
I just want to start off by saying this whole thing is a journey for everyone. There's many different stops on that journey. And once you start looking around and you realize that so many different things aren't what you've been told they are, you start looking for answers. So for me, the information that was more readily available out there is what a process called the secured party creditor process. You know, people setting up trust and trying to operate through trusts within the system. That's a whole process. It's very similar to, you know, the state national process, but you're still stuck in the system. So you're still under their control, living under their rules. So then when I came across Anna's work and her process, it actually takes you completely out of their system, you know, and it puts you above them to be able to take back those controls and then turn around and, you know, take your rightful position to dictate to them what they're supposed to be doing, the way that that America was originally set up. It all just kind of clicked, and it was the missing piece that I had been looking for years. There's a whole other world over here that, you know, most people don't know about, and it's kind of the end of the road that you find it, you know, on this journey of truth.
The first time I heard of anything like sovereignty, we live up on like the Iroquois nations, so I would hear like the tribal laws and stuff like that, but never actual like sovereignty law. The first time I heard about it was the Moorish community, and some of the travel permit licensing they did. I was in prison for DUIs, so it was like I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't hit anything. I just had an alcohol drug problem, you know, and I didn't know how to transmute the pain that was coming out of society in a proper way. I did my learning a lot more in isolation. Like I don't need the group as much more to learn. So I was able to come through these conspiracy rabbit holes and find only the truth in what Anna was saying. Especially when you see like the propaganda, China, everything. I knew everything led back to the Vatican at the end of the day. I knew that much. I didn't know that it was the British Crown and the Vatican, but as soon as I saw her work, and I was like, okay, this woman is perfect for this job. If Trump was the wartime general to come in and clean everything up, like if I was going to be welcomed back home to land, I would want it to be like my grandmother, but with a sword. And that's like the person that Anna is. She could just slay demons with her tongue and then give you a hug after. She's the only truth I found in all these rabbit holes. Like she's the end of the rabbit hole.
I came across Anna's work a few years ago, and because I wasn't really situated in a place to actually dig into it and get involved, I had to table it. But a number of things happened over the course of that few years, and it got dumped in my lap again. And I was in a position to dig into it and get involved. For a very long time, I've walked the path of self-governance. I walked away from credit cards a long time ago. I walked away from a lot of things that really just did not make sense in life. And as a result of it, I had to struggle along without a lot of the things that people have grown not only comfortable with, but dependent upon. And I saw that as a failing, and I just kind of removed myself from it. To the gentleman that's up there near the Great Lakes, I had gotten involved with a sweat lodge community, and you had mentioned the Iroquois, and one of my studies was the Iroquois Confederacy and how the origins of this country and the origins of our Constitution were really kind of rooted in those same fundamental principles. When I decided a long time ago to seek the truth, it brought me to where I am. And it's not necessarily Anna von Reitz, it's the truth of the matter. It's the truth of all the things I've been searching for. What is sovereignty? What is governance? What is self-governance? What is contract? What is all that stuff? And so those things are all very clearly laid out in all of the articles that I've written. I mean, Anna is a very prolific writer, but she's also been very, very busy for the last 2 decades trying to bring our country back together. And all of the things that she has done have been absolutely critical for us to be where we are right now.
When did I meet Anna? It was 2 months after we had taken Lawful Bank as the previous website into an interactive website, suddenly this just another profile joins. Anna von Reitz, never heard of her. Instead of her face, she's got that sunset thing that she still uses on Facebook. So you can still see the conversation I typed with her. I said, you know, whatever, thanks ever so much. We can't trust you if we can only see a sunrise. And she, without batting an eyelid, she said, oh, I'm sorry, dear. Yes, of course. How about this? Uploads her face. I said, oh, fantastic. So that was November 2013. And within a couple of months, she was posting stuff on there and linking us to stuff, which I just want to tie back to Eamon. In terms of drilling through to the truth, that was it. She was it in spades. And the only other person I'd come across who could do that was Dr. Judy Wood on the 9/11 issue. I've been all around everywhere with all of those sorts of people. And then when you get the facts delivered like that, wow. Also, be in no doubt that we are going to tear down their system. It's coming down. Any thinking human or member of mankind has to realize that what we don't want is just complete slash and burn and everything decimated down to apocalypse.
My road has been long. I discovered at a young age what sovereignty was, and sovereignty is something that's given to us through our Creator. And so I started to question things at a very young age. I made a lot of discoveries as I grew. I started asking a lot of questions. I come from a very patriotic, military-oriented family, so I followed family tradition. When I entered into the military, I made some realizations. It was just a gradual progression of finding fact. And then I've gone down every possible rabbit hole I've ever found. Texas National Movement, the Republic of Texas, you name it, the Liberty Alliance, National Liberty Alliance. And I never could find a good, solid answer as to why it happened, why we weren't what our forefathers intended. Because I've read the founding documents at a young age and memorized them at a young age. And I was in love with the Declaration of Independence. I mean, what better document in the world to a living man, woman? So I never could quite find the right answers. And I eventually got, to a point where I kind of wanted to give up or just do something drastic. And out of nowhere, Anna just appeared. I couldn't believe it. After all those years of research, I'd never come across her work or her, but by the Almighty, there she was. And we talked briefly, and I'm very blessed. I am a very fortunate individual. I have a unique relationship with Anna. I do answer to her. She is the fiduciary, so therefore my boss. And I do like what Eamon said about Grandma with a sword, because I don't typically follow people. And I don't typically have faith in people with their information because, as I've said, I've been down so many rabbit holes. But there's a connection there with Anna on a spiritual level. And there's so much truth in her work and what she's revealed to the world. And in my personal studies, I mean, I've found linkages in history and, made the same discoveries about our revisionist history and how little we were actually taught. So it's such a gift to be truly free and to be in my positions. And I love the energy here because, as I've stated, I've been doing this for a long time on my own. And being alone in the world can be scary at times. And to have brothers and sisters stepping up to the plate, taking steps is outstanding. So thank you guys, everybody. And thanks for the opportunity to speak.
I just want to say I love the description of a grandma with a sword. The first description I heard from Neil of Anna von Reitz was, "This woman eats popes for breakfast," and that kind of sold me on her. That and the 3,500 PDFs and still going on her site, which explain in excruciating detail with nothing left to the imagination exactly how this has occurred. Never before have I seen anyone actually spell it out to that, minute level of crossing their T's and dotting their I's the way she has. Moving on to the next point now. How could you describe the American States Assembly, and what makes it different from any other form of democratic government that we've ever seen before, and why should those who are completely averse to any form of organization because they feel like it's some sort of oppression, how do you sell the idea of the American States Assembly to them? What makes it different in terms of self-sovereignty?
The explanation for it's very simple. I mean, this is the only standing group of living people that are basically building or reconstructing a government of everyday men and women. This is me and Nico and Eric. We're friends, you know, and our whole country, as we gain more friends and family, we're all coming together and working for one common goal, and that's each of our freedom. This is not us hiring these career politicians that have their own agendas. This is us doing it for ourselves. So that is what is completely different from anything else that stands in the world, aside from, you know, maybe some remote tribe in the Congo. Populated, civilized world knows nothing existing like this.
Just being able to bring a different way of doing things outside of this indoctrinated lifestyle. It brings it to a grassroots level, and you actually get to see the people that you're assembling with. We're going to get to know each other. And because you're growing this from seed, you get to root out the bad roots. And if there's problems, they get rooted out quickly. Like when you're a farmer, you're paying attention to your crop the whole time if you're a good farmer. And this is the only way to do it. You have to come back in and establish a framework, because we don't know how long it's really going to take to bring everybody back one by one. Some of us are just in here to put the foundation down and then leave and go enjoy our lives. We just realized we need to save this country right now. Would rather be in the woods alone doing some shamanic activities, but right now I know that like strong people need to stand up and do what's right.
Why do 3 million people meet up and there's 20 cops and they're yelling at the cops? Why don't they tell the cops, if you're not on our team, you're going to be arrested right now? So that's all this is. This is just a meeting of real people, actually free, actually sovereign, actually the real de jure government. And unfortunately, we have to do the reconstruction because it's been, you know, interregnum for 150, 60 years. And that's fine. Just like you said, we got a moral obligation because now the shit hit the fan. And if we don't get together and take care of each other and, you know, form enforcement, which, like I said, if 3 million people could stand there with a sign, 3 million people could stand there with a zip tie and say, hey, if you mean us harm, you're going to sit in jail for a day. I mean, it's that simple. You know what I'm saying? But we just need to just put people on the land and soil. We just need to form the collective. That's all we need to do. And I really think that what we're doing right now is the answer. And like everyone here said, this is about freedom. And we just want to help everybody be free. We want to show everybody that you have nothing to fear. Just be yourself. Just don't harm anybody and don't force anyone to believe what you believe. And that's it. You could do whatever you want. And what makes you another man who's alive or woman who's alive? What gives you authority over me? Nothing. In fact, you only have a job because I decided to pay you. And the funny thing is that I didn't even decide to. I was forced to. Well, now I know that, so I'll never pay you again. Not how you're acting now. If you want to act like my brother, if you really want to patrol the streets and say, you know, provide medical care, provide aid, if you're not interested in taking care of the community is no longer going to allow you to provide service. And it's as simple as that. And the only thing the community needs to do is realize that, wait a minute, we already build all the buildings. We already put all the electrical in there. We already do all the insulation and all the pipe fitting. We already weld all the, you know, everything that needs to be fabricated. Why are we paying these people to arrest us after we do our jobs? Nah, no longer. I will no longer provide money to people to provide service to my community. Unfortunately, we have to step up and be the community. I mean, I've been working my ass off since I was 17. 60, 72 hours a week, running $1 million jobs, you know, running back and forth 20 miles. And the funny thing is, all I had to do was tell everybody on that job, hey, if you sign this paper, we can fire all them cops. We could fire that judge who arrested, who charged you for, your car smelled a certain way, or, you didn't cover your nose with a cloth mask that's been proven to do nothing. I mean, this stuff doesn't make sense, and we've always known it. And even the people who don't know it know it. They're mad at it. They bitch about it. They whine about it. And the thing is that they don't know what to do about it. And we finally know what to do about it. We have the structure, and it's the du jour. So it's on top. They can't tell us nothing. The only thing you got to do is declare yourself. They live in a world of paperwork, not us. And we have all the information that'll teach you where it went wrong. We have the proof of fraud. We have the proof of corruption, and we have the correct structure. And that's it. We're a family because everybody is themselves. So for the first time, it's a meeting of the minds.
None of us alive, and certainly none of us on this call, have been part of actual real governance, because everything we've experienced since we were born has been based on fraud. So once we discovered this, however we came to be doing the work that we're doing right now, we discovered that there is a critical path laid out in front of us. And if there's 5 things I need to focus on to make that happen, to help people come back onto the land and soil, great. Then I need to spend my time and learn how to do those 5 things as best I can and carry them forward and share them with people. If there's 25 things on the table, it makes it harder, and it actually steers people away from it. So the less of our own personal stuff that we bring to this situation, and the more we focus on the actual critical path that's been laid out for us, the quicker we'll be able to actually put these things back in their places and take back our local county governments and actually take back over the infrastructure that has been put in place over the last 150 years during the Industrial Revolution. And I just want to make it clear that the work that we're trying to do has been done so much by the people in our fiduciary and our head of state, not just for us, but in countries all around the world. And they need to get brought up to speed as well. Like Rick has set this call up so that they can learn how to do what we're trying to do over here as well.
For me, I'm in a very interesting position because I'm in a role where I work directly with law enforcement, and I do outreach to make sure that they have education and the materials available to them to make sure they can understand exactly what it is we're doing. In the Peacekeeping Task Force, we address the issues of, arms ownership, munitions, access, communications, a variety of things. We're responsible for organizing the militias, for establishing our Continental Marshal Program. Basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to reinvent the relationship between law enforcement and the people, because when you're self-governing, there's really no reason to have vast amounts of law enforcement and militarization of a law enforcement office. And with our military surplusing programs going to local law enforcement offices, there's a lot of issues that really need to be addressed. And this is an opportunity for me to be able to do that. And, I've wanted a voice, and I've had a voice in my community. I've been on the news a couple of times, and I've spoken at rallies. I was a militia organizer, and I've sat in, many officials' offices and had very long conversations about the constitutionality of what they were doing and how they were behaving. And, I was never really heard, and it never mattered, but now it matters. Now my voice matters. Now all of our voice matters. So it's an opportunity to actually do something to improve our situation instead of just sitting around and talking about it. And that is the greatest gift that I could have ever asked for, because I personally, I try to be a man of action. I speak softly, but I try to follow up everything that I say with 100% commitment and dedication. And it's just, again, I can't tell you how privileged I feel to be able to serve the American people in such a way.
Just to summarize, what's important about TASA is that the UK is looking at about 3,000 years of enclosure, enslavement, and shutdown. In fact, the king or the local nice guy that Michael Benicio has referred to is a bloke called Donald the Bald at 400 BC. So that's how much we have to unpick. So I can promise you every blade of grass is locked down, under control. Every square inch, every grain of sand on every beach. There is no such thing as walking into the local gym to be part of the local sign up for the local parish. You'd have to pay an arm and a leg to even have the hall at your disposal for 10 minutes and taxed, and you'd be monitored and you'd be on CCTV and the whole thing. It's a very, very tiny little island. It fits in one great lake, and it's got 65 million people packed in like sardines, all locked down, all under control. So when I'm urging with Gary that we actually get to the next step, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I want any of you in any state, Alaska, ideally with Anna, to say, right, this is our land, these are our buildings, this is our computer system, these are our laptops, these are our mainframe computers, this is us, and it can start with just the smallest, most modest something, but it has to be appealing. It's got to look like we are serious and permanent and here to stay. And the sooner any one of you, any state, anywhere gets there, that's what we want to publicize, because then we can say, right, you watch that one. That now is the catalyst. That's the example that gets us from a whole bunch of airy-fairy ideas that have been going on for generations into actual practical steps forward.
I've heard it described by Anna as being like a family unit. And the way I've described it in some of my previous videos is it's the difference between paying a cleaner to clean your house and then you as a family clubbing together to go, you know what, we can probably do a better job between us if we all just do a bit. For me, I think that's the sort of the fundamental difference. It's governing yourselves. So I just wanted to bring this down to a sort of a real personal impact now. And I want you guys just to think about what differences you have noticed in your personal life since becoming an American state national. What does it actually look like in your lives at the ground level?
Since correcting my political status, I've basically gone from caring about that fake world that doesn't exist to it doesn't even matter. I am truly free, brother. I truly have zero fears. I did get kidnapped this week. For what? For smiling at the gym working out. And I paid for that gym membership for 4 years now. And 7 weeks before I got kidnapped, I served them notice that I don't wear masks and I'm sovereign. And they accepted my paperwork. And they didn't make me wear a mask for 7 weeks. But one day, one lady decided that that paper became master during 2021. And she called the cops and they kidnapped me. But it's okay because I wasn't scared of them anymore. They were nobody. I'm talking to an agent, a piece of paper, a legal fiction. Not only do you have no consent, but you have no jurisdiction. And here are my credentials. You have to establish standing because I'm telling you, you have no authority over me. I would never have said that 4 months ago. I didn't even know what that was 4 months ago. Now, hey, when they put the cuffs on, you're committing an international crime. You don't even understand how many international treaties, declarations, constitutions. I mean, why are you breaking so many laws right now? Why are you trespassing on my life, liberty, and property? I'm a peaceful, private, self-governing American. I mean you no harm. Why are you taking me away from the gym right now? I mean, what crime has been committed? I mean, there's one crime being committed right now. You got your cuff on my hand. And I have a published fee schedule. And I'm the holder in due course of my name. And I've declared that I'm a self-governing foreign international outside of the municipal and territorial corporations. So if you want to continue to do this, you're going to be held liable. You the man, not you the agent, not you the officer. Because I don't deal with fictions. Like I said, I only deal with living people. And right now, you're causing me harm. So if you go along with this, I'll see you in court, brother. But I'm not going to see you as the defendant. I'm going to see you as prosecutor because you're going to be held liable. And I'm going to be owed restitution, redress. We already know what we're owed. And fair compensation. because there's right and there's wrong. Rules and regulations don't matter to me. Like I said, I already declared that they don't even exist in my life. I'm not causing anyone harm. That didn't even exist 4 months ago. And now that world doesn't even exist to me. That's how free I am. And I have that right because I have that paperwork and I have that protection. And like I said, I'm willing to be the peacekeeper. I'm willing to be that enforcement. I'm willing to be the first one that goes to court or the first one that goes on the shipping barge. I don't call it a jail anymore because I walked through the Sally port. So that tells me that I boarded a vessel. And then they put a shipping label on my arm and they put me in a shipping container. See, I know now what they're doing. They have no control over me. And while they're doing it, I'll happily expose it and teach and help everybody understand that, hey, I don't care that you're going along with this, but just understand that just like them, you'll be liable. And that's what's changed.
Since coming into the common law knowledge, I guess I still haven't been 100% recorded on land yet, although I've taken the process or the paperwork process in and done the parts I needed to do so far. But I guess it just renewed a sense of hope. Really, at the beginning of 2020, when I was out in Los Angeles, I thought that there was just going to be some type of world, like a war, some type of war scenario standoff out there, and I'm just blessed that I came into this type of knowledge at that time because I was of no help to anybody in the state I was in before finding Anna in the American States Assembly because I didn't see a solution going forward, and I'm not the kind of person that's trying to wait for somebody to act and come save me. So I can say that it brought the hope back into my life. It's just been a miracle. And
honestly, after hearing everybody and traveling the country as I do, I can tell you firsthand, my life has changed tenfold. I'm a person of action. So, I paid taxes in 20 some odd years. I've done the research on my own for a lot of this stuff and discovered, that it's voluntary. So the biggest change, I would say, the fact where everyone else has these horror stories of this time of crisis, I don't. I've traveled around freely. I've never put on a mask. I've never been put in handcuffs. In fact, I've only had one or two encounters in a store where someone really challenged me too much. When you learn how to stand in honor and you learn how to carry yourself in honor and present truth and fact to people, the world's a different place for you. I feel immune in a lot of ways. Now, that's not to mean that I don't suffer. I'm a single father. I have a son that I've had asked to make great sacrifices in order for me to take up my role. But wow, what an amazing experience I've had because I haven't had to suffer the hardships that other people have. And it's heart-wrenching to hear those stories.
My life hasn't changed a whole lot. And I think that's because, just realizing a lot of this so early in life, I may have not been living my life legally, but I've been living my life lawfully for many, many years. Much like Eric said in the beginning, I haven't paid taxes in a very long time. I learned early on that it was kind of voluntary, and just, the other rules that society puts out there and the standards that they require, I didn't really live by. So I can't say that it's changed a whole lot for me other than, I really have the paperwork to back it up now.
For a number of years, I didn't have purpose. I was in a vacuum. And it was because I walked away from most of the systems that a lot of people have gotten kind of conditioned to. Once I did recognize what was laid before me with the state assembly work, it definitely gave me a purpose. And because of the background and my own study, a lot of it was really straightforward to me. Once I started delving into the articles and reading the actual factual history, I realized that I was almost acutely educated for the job that I'm in now. So Like a couple of others have shared, I haven't paid federal income taxes in over 15 years because I know certain things, and I've known certain things for a long time. So being brought forward to where I am now, I'm really grateful to be a part of what I'm doing because it gives me a purpose. And I think that's the one thing that carries across the board, is that if we as a society look to the individuals and realize that everybody really kind of should have a purpose, even if that purpose is just being out in the woods and you know, in a sweat lodge somewhere, and just getting to that place for themselves where they're okay, they're not living in fear, they're overcoming their griefs and their wounds. I think that is a job in and of itself, and I think a lot of those people really need that and nothing else. Some people, kind of like me, are hardwired for getting things in place, getting things done, and you know, getting on with their lives. And I'm grateful to be a part of that. In any way I can, I want to be instrumental in helping to facilitate that.
Thank you to all of you for joining me this evening. It's been a very, very long one. We're just past 5 a.m. GMT right now, so I am very much ready for bed. The point that I really want to finish on here is that all the people that you are seeing before you tonight have offered themselves as servants to their nation, as people who are willing to work for the good of not only themselves, but the good of others, because they all recognize that while we are all fundamentally different, we are also all fundamentally equal in our ability to contribute to society in a positive manner. And that doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, it doesn't matter whether you're a mechanic, it doesn't matter whether you fill holes in the road. Every single person, every single living creature has something positive to bring to things. And the moment you come from that base understanding that we are all equal in our rights to live, and we're all equal in our rights to find our purpose to life, from that we can start to build this fundamental family structure where we can learn to rely on each other and we can learn to support each other in a mutual manner. This isn't some form of communism. This is a private social gathering of sorts where we have all agreed to operate on these very basic principles, where no one is trying to tread on anybody's toes, and we are all just trying to make sure that we have equal access to all the amazing things that this planet has to offer. Thank you very much for watching. If indeed you still are, if you did like the content, don't forget to subscribe, hit the thumbs up and the notification bell set to all. Will make sure you're always kept up to date with all of my video content when it goes live. If you do want to support the channel, please head over to my WordPress, links in the description below, where you'll be able to donate and also read some of my own blog posts over there. If you do want to join me and many others and become part of our lawful assemblies, conventions and gatherings of people self-sovereign across the world, then head over to lawfulbank.com. Take care of yourselves, guys. Don't forget to stay free, think free, and as always, act free, and I'll see you next time.